Overtired. So tired. Overtired.
Hey, this is Overtired. You knew that, but I'm just telling you, this is Overtired, and I'm Brett Terpstra. I'm here with Christina Warren. Jeff Severns Gunsel is out this week. He is simultaneously out of town and sick.
The worst combo.
Either one would be sufficient cause to miss an episode, but he had to go for both. He's an overachiever.
That sucks. It does look like he is very cozy.
Yeah.
Like the photo he sent us from his cabin near the lake looks lovely.
Lake Michigan, yeah.
Lake Michigan looks great, but that sucks.
Or some Great Lake. I actually don't know where he is.
I was gonna say I don't know what Great Lake it is, but it looks very lake-like. It looks great. So, love that for them, but hate that he's sick.
I was just in Chicago, so I've seen the Great Lakes this week too. Yeah. So let's start with the mental health corner. I'll let you go first. I have some fun updates. My usual shit. But how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm in a weird situation where I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about this or not. I don't think my mom listens to this podcast.
I explicitly tell my mother not to listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my mom does not listen to this podcast. So I feel like I can... Okay. I need some advice from you on this.
Okay.
All right. My mom saw an Instagram repost of a viral TikTok. Saw some other things where people have posted imagery from Taylor Swift's concerts, like the current one. And she called me very upset, telling me that she'd hoped I hadn't already bought tickets for us in Atlanta because she's concerned that Taylor Swift is promoting Satanism and like Wiccan, like Wiccan shit, like that stuff, because apparently there is like a moment of the show that has some like kind of allusions to like, I guess 17th century, 18th century like witchcraft sort of stuff. And some woman on TikTok is convinced that it's all a sign and talking about all these things. And I tried to like convince her otherwise, but I haven't really talked to her since that happened. Yeah. And you have more experience with this than I do.
Yeah.
How does one convince their parents that someone is not a Satanist?
It depends on how reasonable their parents are.
Okay.
As far as I know, your mom's a pretty reasonable person.
She's incredibly reasonable, yeah. But I also don't want her to be uncomfortable. But like, I also, this is not true.
Right. Well, so like for me, this would involve a whole discussion of the Satanic Panics that have happened in the 80s and are happening again now.
Right.
Like there's this whole resurgence of this, like ever since that Lil Nas video.
Right.
Like it's just this whole like the media is full of satanic images, and it's going to drive kids to commit suicide and kill each other and murders and mayhem. So that would be where I would start with my parents. He's just talking about how destructive that was and how none of it has ever turned out to be true.
Right.
But for my parents, it's very much like they live in a world of spiritual warfare. If it's not God giving them challenges, it's the devil trying to keep them from God. And like literally everything they do in their life is spiritual warfare. And they view the world in those terms. And that makes it very difficult to say, well, that's not satanic, when literally everything to them is either godly or satanic. There's no like in between. If you have someone more reasonable, like your mother, just talking about maybe how accusations of witchcraft have never worked out well for humanity.
I kept trying to be like, I was like, well, I guess maybe this is like Arthur Miller-esque. I was like, because if you squint, and the thing is that it's during this one song, Willow, which she does have a video that she did some behind the scenes things in, where there is like some like magical elements, mystical elements. And then there is like a something witch remix, and I'm like, oh my
Well,
god, this
that's
is
that's
problematic.
where that's where the Satanic Panic in the 80s began, was with fantasy role-playing games, Dungeons and
Yes,
Dragons.
yeah, no, I
And
remember that
it's fantasy. You know?
exactly.
It's fantasy, it's a story. And also be sure to ask, like, what harm is being done? Like, who is being, like, what is the end result of, say, Taylor Swift did openly embrace Wicca, and proclaimed herself a Wiccan and used all that imagery. Like, who's it hurting? Like, is Wiccan a truly destructive force in our, like, religious world?
I mean, my mom would probably say yes. She would probably say that this is someone like actively trying to like impart the devil onto people or
Okay,
something. But
so a little less reasonable.
I mean, I think that she would like intellectually understand like what's the harm, but I think that where she would draw the line, she'd be like, but I don't want to be a
To
party to
support it,
it.
sure.
Right. Like that would be the difference, right? Like it
Yeah.
wouldn't be like but so anyway,
So
this
you need to convince her that that's not actually what's that. Show her some of the more ludicrous accusations that are out
this is
there
what
right now.
okay, this is what I wanted to do because like for, in it, like the post that she sent me, I was like, this person has things like tagged MK Ultra. I'm like, mom, I'm like, this is, I'm like, I'm like, I'm like, I'm like,
God.
I'm like, none of this is in any way accurate. I'm like, this whole thing is ludicrous. I'm like, she's on Taylor Swift is a Christian. Like she's not a Christian artist, but like
Right.
she's that's how she's like defined herself. So I'm not gonna, like question that. Anyway, the whole thing I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I was like, what's happening here? But I appreciate the Satanic Panic thing. I think is good grounding because that whole thing was bullshit, and we actually listened to a true crime book about that when I was in high school. Um, that was that a made for TV movie was made about it. It was a book called Cruel Doubt, and I think the guy that um Janet Maslin wrote that book about, Joe McGinnis, I think he was the author, but um or Janet Malcolm rather. Um, but it's called Cruel Doubt. And in the made for TV movie, the reason I remember this is because we all listened to this audiobook on a trip. And then I found out that like Blythe Danner and Gwyneth Paltrow, before she was Gwyneth Paltrow, like were in this like made for TV movie like adaptation of it, which in 1998 was like a really funny thing to learn.
Sure. Do you want to hear what my mom came at me with this morning?
Yes, please.
um she reads poorly sourced articles and takes them as truth, and then when the conversation over breakfast on Saturday morning quiets down, she has been in the habit of like doing these what about statements. And apparently and I don't know how much veracity there is to this, but she claims that Joe Biden just signed a law that will turn all currency in the US digital, and the government will have full access to all of our money. And then she follows that, like, everything kind of went silent because I haven't read what she's talking about. I don't,
Right.
like, I can't argue against her sources. My usual reply is, what are your sources? But I didn't even have the energy for that. And then she follows it up with, and the IMF has an agenda to control the world or some shit. Oh man. So everything went silent, and we all just sat there in silence for a moment because I wasn't gonna feed her like
No.
conspiracy. And my dad's like, well, on a lighter note, and starts talking about like home improvement or whatever we usually talk about. It was, my mom's definitely becoming a conspiracy theorist. Like, she latches onto stuff and gets really angry about it and like wants to talk about it.
Right, which I this is like this is the one thing where like yeah, I become like worried about this because I saw what like talk radio did to my dad.
Yeah.
But my mom, I've always thought it was like much more sane and much more reasonable. Um and look, if she doesn't want to go to a concert, if she doesn't feel like it's gonna be comfortable or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just like don't want her to miss out on a good experience because of some insane bitch on TikTok.
Yeah, and some unfounded fear for sure.
Exactly.
All right.
All right, so that's sort of my mental health update. I'm trying to figure out like how to like, tell someone I love
Yeah,
more than anything else, this isn't true.
that can be difficult when someone comes at you with something that's so far out of left field.
Yeah.
It gets really hard to like argue. Like, I mean, you could just say that's ridiculous,
I mean, I
but
did, but
but
I
that's
also want to be,
ineffective.
but I also want to be like, like make her feel
Compassionate.
comfortable,
Yeah.
compassionate. Well, because I am compassionate, because it's like, look, if I had like a deep seated belief and like I thought that I saw something that was like, oh, well, this shows something that is going to be supportive of something that I'm very much against.
Mhm.
Because again, like her thing would never be like, oh, you can't go and this is immoral and this shouldn't exist. It would be like, I don't want to be a party to this,
Sure.
which is a little more reasonable. It's still not reasonable to, I think, take cues from anyone who uses the MK Ultra hashtag. But
Yeah. All right.
all right. Let's move on to you, because I want to hear about your updates, especially because you got a bunch of things. You need to hear about Yeti. You need to hear about what Michigan was like.
Yeah.
You need to hear
Well,
about
that'll
your Adderall shortage.
yeah, so the mental health update is relatively short. Um so I think I probably talked about it at the time, but a couple months back I went to the ER because my watch told me that my heart rate had been elevated like over 120 BPM for more than 10 minutes, and it wanted me to like seek help if needed.
Right.
So I did. I don't fuck around with my heart. We have a history of heart disease in my family. I take these things seriously, and I went to the ER. They ran tests after tests and EKGs and X-rays, and I was fine. Like in my blood pressure and my pulse were all fine the whole time I was in the ER, and they discharged me after a couple hours and said, maybe follow up with your doctor, see if there's something else going on. But so I made an appointment a couple months out. That was as soon as I could get in to see my doctor. And then my refill for Vyvanse came around, and my psychiatrist noticed this heart issue that sent me to the ER on my record with no follow up yet from my doctor, and said that she wasn't comfortable refilling my meds, even though all my test results are on there and she can see them. She's like, if your doctor approves, he can refill your meds, but my doctor will never refill psych meds. Like he will always defer that to his psychiatrist. So that means, fortunately, my appointment is on Monday, so I'm only going to be without Vyvanse for a few days. And it sucks because it leads to like suddenly going off it. The dopamine crash leads to depression, and then
Mhm.
going back on it can trigger mania for me, being bipolar and whatnot. So that's a little sketchy. Hopefully it's just a couple day thing. I really hope this isn't the start of another like drought of stimulants. But I did. So a friend, I've been talking for a while about microdosing,
Right.
and a buddy of mine finally got his shroom growing operation up and running.
Okay.
So I got my first like eighth of shrooms, and have just been taking like maybe a half inch of stem or a small cap a day for the past few days, and I don't trip at all. Like I barely, nothing seems to happen, but it does seem to help my mood. I'm a lot less interested in things like alcohol when I'm doing this microdosing, and I need to do a little more research and find out what the actual dosage should be and how you tell. Like with acid, it's easier to like have micro dot blotters, but with shrooms, like you never know the potency of the mushroom. So it's hard to be like, you need exactly, a half inch of stem or whatever. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But it seems to be working. It seems to be doing what I want it to do, where it helps my mood, it helps my creativity without triggering mania.
Okay,
Um,
that's all really good.
and like I'm depressed enough right now that it's a little hard to tell that if it's working, but I can tell the before and after difference when I take my daily dosage. So I think it does elevate my mood a little, and maybe a little stronger dose would help me. But I definitely, especially on a work day, I don't want to end up tripping. Like I don't need to be in a Zoom meeting with like hallucinations or anything.
No.
That would suck. So I'm being very careful about it. But I think I'm on the right path. I think this is a good antidepressant treatment that works with my bipolar. So thus far, I give it one thumbs up, and we'll hope for better results moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope that, yeah, I hope you can like find some sort of a like decent way, like you said, to be able to microdose this so that it's, yeah, not going to inhibit your work, because it
Yeah.
sounds like it could be a great thing, but it also feels like this is what's hard about this sort of stuff. Like ketamine therapy is a similar thing. Although I think guess that's a little bit different because you can kind of do it in like treatment periods of time.
Right,
And
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, and they're like, okay, this will have these long lasting effects. Whereas like the microdosing in this way, you have to really think about, okay, how do I get the whatever the therapeutic benefits are, but I don't want to be baked.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, it's a fine line, I think. I've never done this small amount of mushrooms before, so I don't know like where the cutoff is. I've always been like, yeah, I'll eat 3 and just like see what happens. So this like just try a little bit. Like I don't know where the line is. I don't know where you actually start tripping, but I may find it if I keep experimenting. So anyway, yeah, last week I was in Michigan. I spent $3,000 on a trip to Michigan, which is, if I were going to spend $3,000 on a trip, Michigan is not where I would choose to do it. But I had a good time.
Yeah, tell me about it.
We had our first night in Chicago with Dan, and we saw Erin Dawson in the morning.
Yay,
Almost saw.
how's she?
Oh, she's great. She's great. She was having fun. Her band is going on tour, Genital Shame. That's why she was in Chicago.
Amazing.
To rehearse with her new lineup. And Dan and his recent wife Hyundai are doing great, and Chicago is full of vegan dining and gluten-free dining, and we had some great food, great dinner, great breakfast, got on the road. Our Airbnb in Michigan was it wanted to be nice. Like you walk in and the first you just come off the road, right? So you head for the bathroom, and the first thing you discover is like a heated bidet with a dryer and everything, and you're like, okay, this place is going to be all right. But then you go to the sink and you try to get hot water out of it, and it won't come out. It just stays frigid. So we discovered you only get hot water in the kitchen and the bathroom if the dishwasher is running. But there was always hot water in the steam shower. That it was a nice steam shower, big place, big couches, big screen TV, a dock outside that led to a nice lake, and like overall, like on the surface seemed nice, had some problems.
I was going to say this. Okay, I've had this experience with a number of Airbnbs, which is one of the reasons why, like, obviously you get more space and it can be a better option in some cases than a hotel. But sometimes I'm just like, I would rather get a hotel.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, because it'll be one of those things where you can tell, like, it looks great. The photos look awesome, because that's all they're doing it for. They're doing it for the photos.
Yeah.
They're slapping it together something for the photos. And then they're not fixing things like, in this case, oh, by the way, if you want hot water, you have to be running the dishwasher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which,
and there was a bunch of stuff.
Which that to me, like that signifies a pretty significant plumbing problem.
Yeah.
Like there's something going on with like your hookups at that point. And I don't know what those problems are or how to fix it. I just know that like that.
Yeah.
My engineer, like, pattern recognition brain is like, oh, okay, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it was great having a whole house, having multiple bedrooms and room to have, like, Elle's family over for movie nights, a
Of
whole
course.
kitchen we could cook pizzas in and everything. We made the crust, we made our gluten-free crust, and we baked them and set them on the table on top of parchment paper to cool, and the kitchen table was this, like, fake wood with cheap paint on it, and it turned white underneath where we put the pizza crust, even though they were cool enough to hold in your hand and they weren't steaming or anything. And we just set them down, but they left these white circles on the table. So Ellen and I compiled this whole list of everything that was wrong with the Airbnb so that if he came at us
Right.
for payment on that, I would just be like, well, it was a nice stay, but it would be a real shame to put all this stuff into a review for you. So we're just kind of sitting on that. We haven't heard anything. I think it's fine. But
No, I'm sure it'll be fine. Usually what they care about are like the cleaning fees,
yeah,
and like if you were to like seriously break something like the other
yeah,
stuff, it's unlikely in some of these cases that the owner even like sees the place.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
That's kind of what I figured. Um,
Yeah.
I had tail scales set up, and I was able to access my home network, all my computers, including my Synology, all using Tailscale, which
Yep.
is like I'm used to setting up like a whole like dynamic DNS system
Yep.
and like SSHing and setting up all the ports and everything. And with Tailscale, it was just like just sign into my GitHub account and all of my networking machines were accessible and it was really nice. I appreciated that.
I love
and
that.
and then there's Yeti, the last part of my update. Like, Yeti was a trooper. Like, we had a whole conversation before I left that asked him to try to stick around till we got back, and like, but take care of yourself, and if shit goes down, you have my permission to do what needs to be done. And he seemed to take that to heart. And our house sitter sent us pictures like every day of like Yeti eating and like sleeping under blankets and like curling up with her. And I got home and he was in great shape, like climbed on top of me and just kept giving me nose bumps for like for like 20 minutes. He just kept like bumping my nose with his nose, which is his way of like giving kisses because he knows how much it annoys me when he starts licking. So
Oh.
he's learned to just bump my nose, and it was just constant. Like, he just kept coming back and being like,
Oh.
"I'm so glad you're home." It was very nice.
Oh. All right. Well, I'm glad he's doing okay, but that has to be so nerve-wracking for you. Like every time you even go for groceries, like, oh, you probably get groceries
Will he
delivered,
be?
but
No, we go for groceries. We have to go to the co-op. With all of our dietary restrictions, grocery delivery isn't available. Um, yeah. So we started watching Sports Night. Do you remember Sports Night?
I do remember Sports Night, Aaron Sorkin's first show.
Yeah. And it has
Great show.
some of Aaron Sorkin's best dialogue.
Agreed.
But it's got a laugh track.
Yep.
And it drives me nuts. Like, there's obviously no studio audience. Like,
No.
this is a canned laugh track. Why did I think this was a 90s thing.
It
This
was.
like just
Yes.
tell people something's funny by adding the laugh track.
Right. Well, because I mean, look, this was before they were doing the one camera sitcoms.
Yeah.
And like news radio, which is similar to Sports Night in some ways, but was actually shot in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah, and it shows. Yeah.
And it does, right? But that was a show where I remember on the commentary tracks for that show on when that came out on DVD, Paul Sims, the creator, talking about the fact that would have been like, had they made it like in the early 2000s, like if they'd made it like 8 years later, like after it debuted, like, if they made it 5 years after it went off the air, it would have been a single camera comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But when they made it, it wasn't. And Sports Night, I think even more so, like the second season, they definitely like reduced the laugh track more.
Oh, I'm only on the first season, so I was hoping that would be true.
It is, but Sports Night it's such a shame because it was on ABC, and ABC had like they had no idea what they had. And
Yeah.
and I don't even want to say that like they fucked up and that it was like this show that was going to be a hit, because I don't think it would have been. I don't think there's any scenario where that show ever would have been a
I think
hit.
it could fly now, though.
Yes, but I mean in that era, and I mean on that network, and I mean in that format.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, because it came out in 98, 99. It was like a year before West Wing, and West Wing was 99, I think. 99 or 2000. But it was a great show. It's funny because I always mention sports people, and I'm like, yeah, it's like it's his first show about Keith Olbermann. And
totally.
and people are like, huh? And I'm like, this is how influential like Keith Olbermann is like he's been the reason for not one but two Aaron Sorkin TV shows.
The muse,
absolutely.
Aaron,
I'm like
Sorkin shows, yeah,
absolutely. It's like the Newsroom and Sports Night, like it's totally it's like all Keith Olbermann, but no, yeah, that the show it September 22nd, 98. So yeah, so when it debuted, like there was just nothing that you could there's no way, I don't think, that in that sitcom environment, like when news radio, which was on a network that was better for sitcoms, which was NBC, but the schedulers hated news radio was the real thing. The network president didn't like it. It did very well when it had a consistent and good time slot, but they would fuck it up. News radios, and I think news radio could have worked in the 90s. Sports Night, I don't know. Like I feel like it would work now, and I feel like it would have worked like 5 years after it came out. But like we needed Malcolm in the Middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we needed that. We needed Ricky Gervais's The Office. Like we needed like
I've gone back. I went back and started watching Malcolm in the Middle again, and it's not like news radio totally held up for me.
Oh, totally.
Like I breezed through. I binged like all of that again just this year. Malcolm in the Middle, it's been like I got nothing else to watch. I guess I'll watch Malcolm.
Totally. But it is one of those like family sitcoms. My point being though, like that was the first one, like that and Scrubs, and Malcolm in the Middle was before Scrubs. But they were the first.
I had the same experience with Scrubs. Can't do it.
Scrubs holds up for me, but I also insist on watching it with the original music.
I know we've talked about.
Yeah, we've talked about that. But Scrubs holds up for me. But both of those were like the first, like there's the UK Office, of course, but I mean, like in terms of US TV, where you were like, okay, we can play with what a sitcom is format wise, because Larry Sanders didn't have a laugh track, and many of the writers in the Larry Sanders Show also worked on news radio, and then went on to like be people like Judd Apatow, and so, but that was an HBO show, right? Yeah. And I feel like Larry Sanders in many ways is sort of it's like if that approach had been taken, like for Sports Night, I think Sports Night. And if Sports Night were, say, on HBO, that would have been one thing. But it wasn't. It was on ABC. And so I think you needed, like, the Malcolm in the Middle, the Scrubs. Really, the Malcolm in the Middle is to be like, okay, we can have a different thing than the normal, 4-camera television sitcom with a laugh track.
Yes. Can I tell you about another show that I'm sure you haven't watched?
No, please do.
There's this new Netflix miniseries show. It's a show. It's a series. They call it a series, right? Yeah. It's like 10 episodes. I don't think like based on the ending, I don't think they planned for a second season. I think it's a one-off thing, but it's called Beef, with Steven Yeun and Ali Wong.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of this, I think.
Yeah, and it's like these two main characters get into a road rage incident in the first episode. And it becomes like they start getting each other's like license plates and tracking each other down, and this weird relationship develops as the pranks or the revenge intensifies. They also develop this kind of like respect for each other, and I won't give away the ending, but like through the course of it, there's absolutely a relationship between these two people who on the surface hate each other. want to destroy each other's lives, and Ali Wong plays a rich woman who just became even richer, and Steven plays a contractor whose business is failing and is scraping by and living in an apartment with his brother, and like the two of them come together in these weird ways. And I binged it over like 3 days, and totally the ending is totally worth it. Like, it pays off. So if you're looking for a short run of a show, I found it as compelling, if not more compelling, than I found Wednesday. And I thought Wednesday was pretty good.
I
But
thought Wednesday was okay. I like Ali Wong and I like Steve Wynn.
yeah,
So
Ali Wong is so good in this too. Like, all of her like kind of neuroses, but confidence, like confident neuroses. That's what I would call Ali Wong. And it all comes through really well in this character. She plays it excellently.
okay, I will give this a watch. I'm looking at this now. This was an A24 show, and apparently there was a bidding war. What's interesting to me about this is, I guess it is just for movies, but I thought that Apple had some sort of exclusive deal with A24, and clearly that is not the case. But it's seeming like this would have been. It probably wouldn't have had a second season either, but like this would have been like a good Apple TV thing.
Are you watching is it Shrinking on Apple TV?
I am not.
It is really good.
Are you watching New Ted Lasso?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Loving it.
Great.
Loving
Yes.
it. It's maybe the best season yet. But Shrinking, I had this funny experience. It's a fun show, and it's about therapists, and one of them is played by dude from How I Met Your Mother, like the big dude.
Oh yeah.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah,
guy.
Jason Segel. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And then the other one, and this is the way Elle put it, the elder therapist in this group is played by the guy who starred next to Chewbacca. That was Elle's description. Like, not Han Solo, but the guy who played next to Chewbacca. And I think Harrison Ford would appreciate that was how my girlfriend knew him.
I mean, I don't know if he would. I mean that I honestly don't know if he would appreciate that or not. I think that he'd be like, "Hi, I'm Harrison fucking Ford."
Also, Indiana Jones. You may be familiar with my work.
I was gonna say, it's like there's a bunch of other things. No, but I have seen the trailers or the ads for this, but I haven't watched it. But I have been interested in it.
It's good. It's good.
It's good. Okay. All right. I'll watch it.
Yep. I look forward to it every week.
Okay. I will see if I have access to all of I'll see if I have access to all of those on the way that I have access to some of the press stuff early.
Okay.
Because my problem with this now, and I've become one of those people that I hate, for certain shows I will absolutely still watch like week by week, you know? But when I'm getting into a new thing, especially like if I've missed it when like it started, it's hard. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to binge it. But like if I get into it when it premieres, then I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like the final season of Succession is airing right now, and so it's like the best thing that happens on Sundays is like 6 p.m. Pacific time. I'm like, all right, I can fire up the HBO Max app. I can watch Succession.
What was the Apple TV show with
Adam Scott?
Yeah,
Severance.
I think that has another season coming.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, because they
also Party Down is back on right now.
I was going to say,
so good.
No, it is so good. No, I was going to say though, that's the unfortunate thing about Party Down is that they couldn't get Lizzie Kaplan because she was doing stuff, but they had to work around Adam Scott's schedule for Severance.
Oh, yes, I totally miss Lizzie Kaplan. The show is not the same without her.
Not. But
it's still very good.
It's still very good. And I'm very glad that it's come back. Also, following up on a thing that I ranted about, Netflix did go ahead and just pay up the money, and now that they are the exclusive home of everything Arrested Development.
Yeah.
So they took Arrested Development off of Hulu, which fine, I don't care. And but at least seasons 4 and 5 are available.
Oh, that's good.
So it did not expire and leave. They paid the money because yes, Netflix, pay the money. I'm sure it was a very small amount of money to renegotiate on, and Disney has also made it clear that like they are okay with licensing things to other streamers. It's like they don't need ownership. It's like, and you already have part ownership of the last 2 seasons. Just be the exclusive home. It's fine. But that made me think of that because I was like, oh, Party Down is. I think that it coming back. I think it's more successful. Like I think the episodes are better than Arrested Development. At least the first edit. I think when they re-edited season 4, Arrested Development season 4 was fine. I think the first frame of edits. I get what they were trying to do. It didn't work at all. But yeah, no, I love Lizzie Kaplan. She's about to be in maybe it has started, but Fatal Attraction. Oh no, it starts in like 3 weeks. Okay. They're doing a Fatal Attraction reboot on Paramount Plus.
All right. I have Paramount Plus. I'll watch that.
I mean,
I'll watch anything Lizzie Kaplan.
Me too, but this is like this is actually a really good cast. So it's Lizzie Kaplan playing the Alex Forrest character. So that's Glenn Close's character in Fatal Attraction. Joshua Jackson is playing Dan, who was the Michael Douglas character, and Amanda Peet is playing Beth, who was the wife, who's the actress's name I can't think of right now. So I'm super into this.
Nice. Yes. All right. Should we do some gratitude?
No, first we need to do a promo swap.
Oh my God. Like the whole reason we did the episode this week.
Yeah.
Was because we had thank you so much. I'm so glad you're on the ball. These mushrooms are not helping. So this week we are doing a promo swap with the Tech Meme Ride Home. When the New Yorker magazine asked Mark Zuckerberg how he gets his news, he said the one news source he definitely follows is Tech Meme. For 4 years now, the Tech Meme Ride Home podcast has been Silicon Valley's favorite tech news source. The podcast has become so successful, in fact, that it launched a venture fund where the listeners to the show are the LPs in the fund. The Tech Meme Ride Home is like TLDR as a service. It's not just the latest headlines from the world of tech, it's also the context around the latest news of the day. It's all the top stories, the top posts, and tweets and conversations about those stories, as well as the behind-the-scenes analysis. Guests who have come on to lend their expertise include Andreessen Horowitz's Chris Dixon and Bloomberg's Apple rumor king Mark Gurman. The folks at TechMeme are online all day reading everything so they can catch you up. So listen to the one podcast anyone who's anyone in Silicon Valley listens to every single day. Search your podcast app now for Ride Home and subscribe to the TechMeme Ride Home podcast. Just in case Overtired has not been giving you enough tech lately.
Yeah. So it's a great TLDR podcast, and it's from Brian McCullough, who is involved with it, who did the Internet History podcast.
Oh,
and the
nice.
book, how the internet was built, or how the web was built, or something. Brian's great. I've been on his podcast a number of times, and Tech Meme Ride Home is a very good. I hate to agree with Mark Zuckerberg on anything, but that is where I go for like my tech news and an update. And the Ride Home podcast is really good. So
yeah, that wouldn't have been the opening line I'd have gone for, like name dropping Mark Zuckerberg as like your opening line for the promo read. But they wrote it. I went with it.
Yeah, but it genuinely is like a website. I go to that and Media Gazer, which is like the media version of Tech Meme. I go to those sites like nonstop. So
nice. All right. So my gratitude, my gratitude is an app on my phone that came in so handy on this trip. It's called Find Me Gluten Free.
Okay.
Or Find Me GF as it appears on your phone. And it is a comprehensive list of it's like Yelp, but for gluten-free dining. And it will find you all of the restaurants that either have gluten-free options or a dedicated gluten-free menu or are dedicated gluten-free. And you can see reviews. You can read from actual people with celiac disease that absolutely like have to know what's gluten-free. Like I'm sensitive to gluten. It causes me intestinal problems, but I will survive.
Right.
But to have like people who can literally die from it
Right.
writing the reviews gives me a lot of reassurance. And it found us some amazing food that like searching gluten free on Yelp did not find. So I highly recommend Find Me Gluten Free. You can pay for like the paid tier seems to be really geared towards celiacs. And of less interest to me. Like just the free version alone did everything I needed it to do. Which is not to say I am opposed to paying for it. Just none of the perks of the paid version really seemed of importance to me thus far. So even if you're gluten free and just want a free app to explore with, it's a great choice.
Fantastic. So that's really good, I think, for people like that's a good thing to know. Like it's good to have these sorts of alternatives to some of like the big mainstays, especially if they're updated well.
Yeah, and
And
that's
if
the
they have an
thing.
active
Like
community.
there's a big enough audience, big enough user base that it actually is very complete and full of reviews. Like even more reviews for most of these restaurants than you would find on like Yelp. And I think that's critical for an app like this, is to have enough people submitting restaurants and reviewing restaurants to actually make it worthwhile. And it's pulled that off.
For sure. So my pick, but I like that. Like I said, like I think keeping like those communities like active is the hardest thing. So you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
I'm glad you found an app that has like a wide user base, and that's really
Yeah.
good. On that note, I'm also going to have a uh iPhone app. This was one that I used when I was at Disney World, actually. And but it's spring break. This might be useful to people if they are going to like the Disney parks or whatever. It does cost money if you want to get the full benefits, but honestly, it's worth it. So the whole thing is that the like default like Disney World and like Disneyland apps suck. Like the Disneyland app, from what I understand, is better, and my past experience with that one has been better. But like the actual like Disney experience app for for Walt Disney World and all those assorted parks in Orlando is terrible. Like for as much money as Disney has, and for as much as you would think that having a good app experience would be something that would be really good for their bottom line in terms of having people spend more money and whatnot, they really it's bizarre to see a company that has like nailed every other aspect of the experience just has like the tech is terrible.
Sure.
And like it's both the website and the app. It's just not great. But one of the nice features about the app when it's working is that it shows you like what your line time is for various rides, what the wait is.
What is the app called?
This app is called Disney World Lines parentheses TP. It's from Touring Plans, but this is better than the actual Disney Experience app.
Yeah, I hear you. I was waiting to add it to the show notes.
No, I know, but I was trying to give some, but I'm trying to give some context to why I'm
Okay.
recommending this app, because people will be like, why would I pay for this when I can get in the Disney Experience app, I can get an update of what the standby line time is.
Yep.
Because that time isn't accurate. Sometimes it is accurate. Sometimes it's way behind. Sometimes it's, like an actual line time might be more like 15 minutes and it'll show 45, or it'll show 2.5 hours and maybe it'll be like 4. So what this app from touringplans.com does, but it's it's Lines is their app. They have a number of different ones. They have one for Disneyland, they have one for Disney World, and then they have their one for Orlando. It's $18 for a 1-year subscription, and you're probably only going to use the app once. So I'm warning you on that right now. However, similar to your like gluten-free dining app, this is a crowdsourced thing where you can see the timelines for both attractions and for dining, actually, where you can be at the various parks and you can say this is how long you're expected to wait, and you can get ride suggestions like based on like the crowds and based on trends in past days to figure out like, do I want to wait in this line or do I want to wait in this one, and what's the overall park busy level. And so it's really useful to be able to know, hey, like, and you can help it out. So like it has a timer built into the app. So like you can start the timer, like I got in line now, and then I stop it when I'm getting off, and it'll let me know like how accurate, like the posted time was. And that feeds the recommendations.
That's worth $18. If it saves you, like after what you paid for your Disney World pass, if it can save you from spending 4 hours in a line when you didn't expect to for something that wasn't like your primary focus for the day,
absolutely,
that's $18. Like you've saved that much money by like getting in shorter lines and taking more advantage of the park.
100%. I completely agree. My point was just that I know there are going to be some people who are just like, I'm not paying for this, and this shouldn't be something
I've already paid to go to Disney World.
Exactly.
I'm not going to pay for another
I've already
app.
paid to go to Disney. I've paid a lot of money to go to Disney. I don't want to do this.
Sure.
I get that. But this was an app that just you talking about being able to find, recommendations and time and, things on food made me think, oh, right. This was actually a really useful app that I used while at Disney.
Yeah. Good travel apps we have.
Yeah. And actually we were recommended this one by Corey Doctorow. So thank you, Corey, for the tip. And I appreciate that. And so that's my pick.
Nice. All right. Well, we have a shorter episode this week. Minus Jeff. Basically 15 minutes that would have been Jeff time if he were here, but no. Instead, that was a good episode. It was a little media heavy, maybe.
No, I think it was good. It was good.
Okay.
No, it was a good return. It was honestly, it was a good return to form. Like, I think this was good. This was like a classic this was like the original recipe Overtired. The original configuration. We miss Jeff, and we hope that his stomach is feeling better. I think Jeff has definitely made the show better, but like this is like a good throwback, like, season 2 episode of the show.
We got some like Christina dropping knowledge about like 90s TV. Like that's nostalgic for me. We just don't do that enough anymore.
We don't know, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch Beef now, which which is great.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay, I think I will too. I'm excited about that. Yeah.
All right. Well, Christina, get some sleep.
Get some sleep, Brett.
The system is going down now.
Hey there, good people. Before you go, we have a bunch of new places where you can interact with us. Please check out our Instagram feed, our YouTube channel, Twitter, of course, and sign up for the Overtired newsletter, which will sort of pick up where the show leaves off, with expanded show notes, a little bit of what the three of us get up to between episodes, and let's face it, there'll be some musings. How can you resist musings? You'll find details for all the ways to interact with us in the show notes and at overtired.com. And thank you, as always, for listening.